Hello and welcome to A Mad Belgian, a weekly collection of bits and bobs, stories, songs, rants and reflections about this mad world and how it makes people, me included, increasingly mad. If you've never heard of me, I'm Jennifer Elgamal, aka A Mad Belgian, which I guess is just easier to remember. My actual name always seems to leave people slightly baffled. Jennifer, a typically English first name, Elgamal, a typically Egyptian surname. Yes, my grandfather was Egyptian. I know, I don't really look it. But perhaps if I stand like this? No? It's a shame really that all I inherited from this fascinating civilization is an unusual name. None of the culture, none of the physique. Which makes for awkward situations sometimes because people think it isn't really my name. The other day, for example, a woman came to me after a gig and said, "Great name, by the way, how did you come up with it?" She thought it was a stage name. Anyways, I've always been proud of being partly Egyptian. In the same ill-justified way, many people take personal pride in their country's football team achievements, for example. Well, I've always taken some pride and been quite interested in Egypt. And becoming a Blue Badge tourist guide for London, as well as a musician, gave me an opportunity to study a little bit more about ancient Egypt. In the British Museum, for example. Now, the most famous object in the British Museum is probably the Rosetta Stone. And if you've never heard about it, let me tell you a little bit about it. It is an irregularly shaped slab of dark stone dating back to 196 BC. On it, a message carved in 3 types of writing called scripts. You get hieroglyphs at the top, the image-based language found on many Egyptian archaeological sites, and that was seen at the time as God's language. Demotic in the middle, the language of the population, the native Egyptian script used for daily purposes, and Ancient Greek at the bottom, so 3 scripts, but only 2 languages. Ancient Greek was the only one of the 3 scripts that we could read, and its last line stated that the text was repeated in all 3 scripts. Now why would anyone painstakingly carve the same text on a stone 3 times in different scripts, I hear you ask? And if this is Egyptian indeed, why would they write in Greek? Well, Egypt had been conquered by Alexander the Great in 332 BC, and the Ptolemies, a Macedonian dynasty, ruled at the time. So people and towns would all have both an Egyptian and a Greek name, just like we have in Belgium, and in Brussels in particular, where every street sign in official communication has to be translated both in French and in Dutch. Now, isn't this wonderful? The Rosetta Stone links beautifully both with my Egyptian heritage and with my Belgian origins. Anyways, the discovery of this stone in 1799 was a major find. Indeed, we had no idea how to decipher hieroglyphs until then, and this provided a potential key to that problem. The stone was used as a printing block to make copies of the text, and various scholars immediately set out to try and decipher it. The only starting point they had was the idea, emitted in the 1760s by one Jean-Jacques Barthélemy, that the oval rings in Egyptian inscriptions, that were known as cartouches, might contain royal names. And we do have them on the Rosetta Stone. If you look closely at the hieroglyph section on the Rosetta Stone, you will be able to see such cartouches where a few signs are enclosed in an oval like this. And the royal name Ptolemy, Ptolemaios, appeared in the Greek section, so we tried to compare the two. This first clue led Thomas Young, an English researcher, to discover that some hieroglyphs in those cartouches spelled the name Ptolemy phonetically. A little later, French scholar Jean-François Champollion expanded on this idea, and in 1824 he published the theory that the Egyptian writing was actually a combination of phonetic signs, representing sounds, and logographic signs, representing an entire word, a concept, a person. This was groundbreaking, and it really opened up the study of ancient Egypt because suddenly we could start deciphering all the hieroglyphs. Now, the stone itself had been discovered by the French, but it was acquired soon after by the British in a battle, and that's why it was brought to London. It has been in the British Museum since 1802, and you can still go and visit it today. However, it's so popular that it's often so surrounded by people that you can hardly see the stone. But don't despair, there is a copy of the stone in what we call the Enlightenment Gallery, which is just on the opposite side of the Great Court, the main hall in the British Museum. It's a much quieter room, and the replica is displayed as the real stone originally was. You can get very close to it, you can really look at details, and you can even touch it. but of course you'll have to wait a little. The museum is closed at the moment, as are most places in London, and we are all quarantined in our own homes, trying to make sense of this time apart from each other. Well, my way to make sense of things in these awkward times is, first of all, to start this show again, but also to start working on remote music collaborations with fellow confined musicians. And the first one I worked with is a Canadian friend I haven't seen in years. His name is David Rispan, and this gave us an opportunity to play together for the very first time. We made this little improvisation across the Atlantic, and I hope you enjoy it. And that's it for today. Tune in every Friday at 10 a.m. UK time, 11 on the continent, for more of a Mad Belgian. It will be mixing London facts, music and other things. Thank you for watching and see you next week.